Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365. I'm Sarah Muirhead. The U.S. dairy industry has been focused on building its relationship with Indonesia and other countries in Southeast Asia, including discussing the launch of a dairy farm technical education program. So we're going to dig into that today. And with us to do that is Krysta Harden, President and CEO of the U.S. Dairy Export Council. Welcome, Krysta. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate the opportunity. Good to see you.
For those of you that are tuning in our audience, if you have any questions, feel free to post those there in the chat area on your screen. If you're joining us from social media, you can post those questions directly in your social feed. So, Krysta, the U.S. has been working on a reciprocal trade agreement with Indonesia, and you've been very involved with that. What is the dairy industry's role in that agreement, and what will completing this agreement, what's it going to mean for U.S. dairy producers? What's at stake here?
Well, thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it very much. There is a lot of opportunity in Indonesia. It's a large population. They, enjoy dairy. They have dairy production there, of course. But the way the country, it's an island country, so there's only so many places to grow. And most of the farms are very small. So as dairy demand increases, they need more sources. And we do source a little bit of product to Indonesia right now. We've been working to grow that. Certainly the potential with a trade agreement will help that, will accelerate our efforts. But this is ongoing. And I really want to give our member companies of US DEC, US-based companies, a lot of credit for their efforts and commitment to this market. And also this partnership that you alluded to that we have with New Mexico, the Department of Agriculture there, Jeff Weddy. I'll send him a shout out to that secretary, as well as New Mexico State, where we work very closely with the Indonesian producer industry, processor industry, as well as the government.
So what does this mean then for U.S. dairy exports?
Well, I mentioned it's a big market population-wise. I believe it's around fourth population-wise in the world. So a lot of mouths. You also have a government, a president of that country who says, hey, kids need dairy in the diet. Let's do something in our school meal program. Something we kind of take for granted here in the U.S. and in other places where, of course, there's dairy in school meals, and every child has that opportunity to have a variety of products, dairy products in their meals. Not the case in every country, and certainly not in Indonesia. So when the government says, hey, we want to do more for our kids, we know that this is a great catalyst for so much of what's needed for our young people in the country, but we can't source it ourselves or all of it. The fresh milk can come from Indonesian farms, but there's a lot more that's needed to really get to every child and for multiple years, of course. So working hand in hand with the Indonesians, and I think that's something that is really important for everyone, your audience, to understand. We don't want to displace farmers in a country when we're doing trade. My opinion as a daughter of peanut farmers in Georgia, I think we need more farmers, not fewer. So really want to make sure that we work very hand in hand with a local industry. We also know if there's a vibrant local industry, that consumers will trust it more. They know, they understand dairy. They know dairy farmers. They see the benefits of dairy right there from their own producers. So that's one reason we work very closely with the industry as well. So building these partnerships, building the trust for dairy in the diet, building the trust for the U.S. as a source, really is what we're about. And, we know we have high value, wonderful products. We can go head to head in a marketplace, but then we do need, the ability to do that. And that's tariff and non-tariff barriers. So we've been working for some time on both of those as well.
Yeah, very important, that partnership and that whole trust building initiative. So what has global dairy demand, what's that look like kind of in the last few months?
It's growing. I think just like in the U.S., you see the demand for protein the importance of protein in the diet, and dairy as a great supplier of that protein. It's happening here, it's happening around the world. Much more awareness, much more interest, just, in the last months and years in dairy in the diet. So we're trying to take advantage of what's happening, these trends that we hope become lasting practices that are not just trends. So being able to have the supply, and we have a lot of milk over the last few years. So it's been perfect timing for us to really look at what's needed. Our exports have been growing. We were up 4% last year. In volume, but in value terms, it was close to 15%. Our cheeses are also in great demand, another great source of protein. They have grown 20% last year. So the interest in dairy in the diet, understanding the healthy, nutritious benefits of this wonderful products is something that we believe is just, it's a renaissance right now for dairy, I believe, not only in the U.S., but around the world.
That's awesome. But how do we keep that going? How do we keep U.S. dairy competitive on the global stage? I know that's probably the question you address every single day, but what are your thoughts there?
Well, if I'm going to wake up and think about something, that's it. How do we take advantage of what's happening in the world and in the marketplace? How do we reassure potential customers and long-lasting customers that we are the source of choice for them, that we have ample supply, that we're committed to their market, we care about growing the market and being a partner with them? That's something that takes a lot of work. It's consistency. You can't come in and out of a market. Every customer wants to know that they matter and that we're committed to them. And that's one thing that we work on very, very closely with our partners around the world, is saying, yes, we're committed to you. We understand you have a choice. We want to be on top of that list. So consistency is very important in any relationship, right? In any partnership, you need that. And clearly with a foreign, government, a foreign customer base who may not know us as well as we know them, they want to get to know our farmers. They want to know our processors. They want to know that we care. So we show up. We continue to travel, to take farmers with us so they can talk about their commitment to dairying. And we, again, just keep those relationships fresh. We respect them. We ask for the same for our industry. So that's part of it. Demand, I believe, is going to be there because of the proteins, the fats, the other great products, the needed nutrients, if you will, that you come from dairy. But us being competitive and working through tariffs, but also non-tariff barriers are also a big part of it. So it's multiple steps, Sarah. It's not simple. It's not always straightforward. Sometimes we take some turns and still have some stalls, but we're committed to it. And I think that's the most important thing.
Talk to us a little bit about the launch of the Dairy Farm Technical Education Program. What is that all about?
Well, that's when we really, Jeff Whitty, I mentioned him earlier, a commissioner of agriculture from New Mexico. We were on a trip by NASTA, the State Departments of Agriculture. We were in Indonesia on a trade mission, emerging market mission. And we're sitting around one evening after a lot of days and long hours of talking to the Indonesians, talking to the government, talking to potential importers from Indonesia. But how do we crack this nut? What can we do that's different? How can we show them we're very committed to this market? And we just started thinking, and Commissioner Whitty's like, look, we've got a lot of resources in New Mexico. We have great researchers. We have great animal care experts. What can we do? And we just brainstormed and got our teams together to say we can really help the local farmers in Indonesia, help them know what we know already. And, sometimes these farms are extremely small. They're isolated. Sometimes the farmers themselves don't even read or write. So we had to develop training programs, and we brought in New Mexico State and Wisconsin with some genetics expertise, and really broke it down to the simplest of simplest. How do you care for your animals? How do you increase productivity? How do you make sure you have food safety elements on your farm and your operations? Again, sometimes it's 1 or 2 cows. that's fine. These tools, these lessons apply at all stages, all sizes, all farms. These are basics. And it's been a really rewarding program to see how many farmers, how many trainers want to learn more, know more, and how quickly they adapt. They learn about the cow needs water available all the time. You have to look at your rations and your forage and make sure they're getting the nutrients they need. And then also, make sure the supply is safe. Very basic steps that our farmers know and know well. But not every farmer around the world has had the benefit of our great university systems, our extension systems. So we're sharing that. And I think we're really showing how committed we are to making sure dairy is part of the diet. And it starts with the local production.
Sounds like all aspects of production are covered in that program. And really, like starting at the basics, we assume people would know those things, but when we get to other countries, that's maybe not the case, even from genetics all the way to that food safety aspect that you mentioned. So any final thoughts or key takeaways you'd like to leave our audience with today here, Krysta?
What I would just say is, patience sometimes is what is required when you're building a market. There's many steps to building that trust and respect. There's an education on the importance of dairy in the diet and all forms of dairy, how it can be consumed. It's not just for little children, it's through the life cycle of people. It's very important for bones. You get someone my age. So it's education, it's patience, it's time, it's being consistent, it's being transparent, being accountable, working through every element of the process and showing up. Being there. I'm going again with Commissioner Weddy in June back to Indonesia. Members of our staffs go even more often to make sure that we meet them there where they are. That's what it takes to build a market, a lasting market, because they do have choices. They're sitting much closer to other dairy producing countries than they are the U.S. Indonesia is a long way away. Get out your old globe or your atlas or pull it up on a Google map. You can see it's a long way away. It's quite a journey. So what's going to make an importer, what's going to make a customer say, I have another choice, and I really like buying from this U.S. company or companies, we hope. So that's what we're building. And that's what we've started in other places. We've seen the success, that patience, that consistency, that accountability, earning. And that's how you get trust, is you earn it. You don't buy it. You earn it. And then that's how the relationship becomes so rich and hopefully very lasting.
Exactly. Great point. You have to earn that trust. You can't buy it. That's a perfect way to end this. So Krysta Harden, President and CEO of the U.S. Dairy Export Council, thank you so much for your time today and good luck with your initiatives.
Thank you very much.
Likewise, we appreciate all of you in our audience for joining us here today. Until next time for Feedstuffs, I'm Sarah Muirhead.